Dogfighting ring busted in Jackson County. Deputies rescued dozens of dogs from a wooded property in Vancleave. Noah Noble in the studio tonight with details. And Noah, you spoke with the sheriff earlier. What can you tell us?
Hugh, nearly 70 dogs were rescued from this suspected fighting ring. Tonight, 3 people are charged for the crime, and all those dogs are getting treatment at the county animal shelter. Sheriff John Ledbetter told me this started when an anonymous tip was sent to Crime Stoppers. Investigators then got a warrant for a property on Pintail Lane in Vancleave, about a half-hour north of I-10. 3 people were arrested. Princeton Knox and Tracy Daniels both charged with dogfighting, and a third suspect, convicted felon Jazwan Butler. He faces drug and weapons charges. Sheriff Ledbetter said the dogs taken from that property were in horrible condition.
There were some that were in kennels or cages, or some makeshift, and some tied or chained to trees or other objects on the property, totaling 67 dogs that were recovered. From broken bones to scratches, gouges, pretty substantial cuts. These dogs, evidence that would lead them to believe that there was dog fighting previously.
No question.
No question.
Some of the dogs, like this one, had homemade stitches. Those are staples on its snout. Others have injuries that are being treated by the shelter itself. And it's unclear if the fights actually happened at that property or somewhere else, and the sheriff doubts only 3 people were involved. He told me more arrests are expected, and this investigation is far from over.